Okay, we're back to where we had just imported our footage, and in this lesson I'm going to go through and set up some manual tracking, and I'll also go through a couple of the pitfalls that you can fall into or that you should avoid when you're filming footage for motion tracking or match moving. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a place that I can put our first tracking point, and I'll just sort of scrub through and see if there are any points that are visible for the majority of the time, and I think there's this point here at the corner of the door. Now it comes to an end about there, so what I might do is I will actually track backwards from this point, and so I'll get it to where it's close to but isn't too close to the edge of the screen. Now to put a new tracking point, I'm going to use the shortcut, which is I hold down Shift and I right click, and I'm just going to put the tracking point right on the corner of that door. Now just pay attention to whereabouts the center of this tracker is, because you will probably have to come back in and put that tracking point back on that point manually if it loses the ability to track that point. So I'm just going to put that tracking point there. I might also come down and make the set the status of this point to an end point rather than an intermediate point. That tells this this software that this is the end of this this actual tracking or this actual track, and so it won't try and calculate any of the tracking after this this frame of our footage. So with that selected, and you can see that we don't have the ability to track forward now that we've set it to end, I'm just going to run this track back. Now you can see that we have a very green line here, and most of the time you won't get quite as green a line as that, but if we bring the playhead back, and you can see over here in this magnified window that wherever the line turns yellow is where it's not entirely sure as to where the tracking point is meant to be. Now if this was just me, I'd probably leave this these little bits of yellow, because most of the time it's fairly spot on. But for demonstration purposes I'm just going to go to this first yellow point, and I think that we could move this basically up a pixel or two, just so that it's back right on that corner there. And so now I'm just going to track back again from this point. You can see that we have a very solid green line, and it's pretty much solid all the way back to the start. And if we come back to I'll never get used to that. To move this playhead, I actually have to move this this point here, and I'll just reselect my track. So I have to move this this playhead here. I think you can hold down Control and move. Yeah, if you hold down Control, you can move it back in this timeline down the bottom here. But you can see that going right back to the start, we're pretty much spot on with the with it being on that corner, and the computer's happy with us because it's got this nice sort of green line, this solid green line, and so that's a really good track. So what I might do is just go up to this point again, and I'll look for another point that we can track, and there's this point here. Now just click on this, make this view active, just as we do with viewports in Maya. Now I'm just going to hold Shift and right click. Now the reason that I'm choosing these sorts of points is that there is a great deal of contrast between this color and this color, and also we have this nice sort of right angle here, and right angles are I've found probably one of the best patterns to track using MatchMover. So I'll just click on that, and I'll track back from that point as well. I'll also set this to an endpoint and track back. You can see that this is also a very solid green line up until about this point. So I'll just hold that control down and click to about here. And you can see that we're just sort of creeping up just a little bit there. So I'm just going to go to that point where it's yellow. And I'm just going to drag that down. Now you will notice that the edges between this color and this color aren't as crisp. And this is one of the pitfalls that I wanted to show you when filming, is that the focal length doesn't change during this footage, and so it is focusing to a certain distance. It's probably focusing to the distance that this door corner here is at, because this looks very crisp. Now, because it's focused at this point, it can't really be focused at this point and this point. And so, as we back away from this point, you'll notice that we get these sorts of half-tone pixels, and that's actually the blurriness that comes about from losing focus. So just be aware of that focus is very important when tracking points, because if you're tracking a point that's very out of focus, you'll lose data almost immediately, and you won't be able to track that point very well. So I've just sort of removed the point so that it's closer to where my human eye decides that that's more of the corner, and I'm just going to track back from that point. You can see that we have a very sort of fairly solid green line. We do have a couple of yellow points there, and that's just again from losing focus, and it might also be slight motion blur as the camera moves, but you can see that after that after those couple of yellow spots, we do have we are on track. So I'm just going to leave that, just let it sort of stay at that point. Now the reason why it seemed to go off the track there is that I had deselected our track there. Okay, now I might track forward from a point just to show you how that's done. And so what I'll do is I'll click on this window, and I will shift right click. Let's see, there's that corner and that corner. I might go with this corner, and you can see that what I was talking about with the focus before, that is quite out of focus, but we can still sort of judge where the corner of that door is going to be. Or we can with our human eyes, but the computer is probably going to struggle a little bit at this point, which is a good thing. It'll mean that I can show you how to fix up tracks once they sort of go astray. I'm just going to set this tracking point to a begin point, and you probably don't need to do that because it is at frame 0, but I like to do it anyway. I'm just going to run forward, and we'll see how closely that sticks to the corner of that door there. Okay, this is embarrassing. The actual tracking point, yeah, it was pretty much spot on all the way through. You can see that it's turning side onto the camera there, and so it's a little bit sort of strange, but it is fairly close to being bang on that point. So I'm fairly happy with that tracking point, which means that I can't really show you how to fix up a bad tracking point. One thing that we can do is pick something with perhaps slightly less contrast, and that will definitely give us some sort of confusion that the computer has. So what I might do is click on a point like this one here. Now we can sort of tell the difference between the edge of this this window and the pane, but the computer might have a slightly difficult time tracking that point. So we'll just track forward from that and see. Okay, so we've got it going a very big sort of set of yellow here. And if we bring our playhead to this point, you can see that in this magnified view, and I'll just sort of, yeah, there we go. It's not going to let me do that. Okay, in this magnified view, we are sort of creeping up a little bit. We're not sort of going on the corner of that window pane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to about here. I'm going to go for the middle of this yellow section here, and I'll move this tracking point down so that it is at that sort of that right angle corner there, and that's fine. And now you can see that we have this sort of yellow here, and we have nothing from here on. What we can do is we can either just track forward again, or we can use this, which is the run, stop, track, full. What this does is it actually takes this point and the previous point, and it will run a track back from this point and compare it with all the other sort of tracking data that it's taken, just to make sure that this this tracker is actually tracking the pixels that we want it to track. So I'm just going to click on that. And you can see that while we go back a bit, we are staying closer to that corner. There is some confusion now in this area, and that's because it's just revising the differences between that track and that track. So what I'm going to do is again go to the middle of this area here, and you can see that it is fairly close to that right angle corner. So I'm just going to move that, and sometimes you just have to nudge it just so that you drop down a keyframe. And again, I'm going to do the forwards and backwards full track. And you can see that we are sort of slowly ironing out the creases in our tracking data. And so I'm just going to go backwards and forwards just to wherever there is a slight bit of confusion, and I'm going to click this button again. And now here you can see that we have a really glorious mistrack, and it goes, actually no we don't, sorry, I've deselected the track again. Okay, so I got all excited then. I thought that I'd be able to show you how to fix up a really bad track. Well, it's basically the same process. It's just sort of just getting the track back online, and then sort of retracking forward and back. You can see that doing this, we are sort of occasionally introducing more of a yellow track to this, and while you can overdo it, I like to keep on going until I am reducing rather than increasing the yellow bad tracks. And so while it might not seem that we've really sort of done much to fix things up, we have introduced more yellow in this line here. What it means is that overall we do have a slightly better track. And I'm just going to go through with the playhead until I find any point that I think could really sort of be tracked better. And again, you can see that being out of focus and having motion blur is really our enemy. That's really what's determining that this is losing information. But I'll continue this in the next lesson.